great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining me. You know, we've obviously spoken before. A lot has changed from, I would say, oh, well, you know, that I'm going to leave that to you to explain. But from a fan's perspective, I would say a lot has changed. Last time we spoke was almost 6 months ago, about 5.5 months ago. Your Inception was in February. I think there was, a high voltage or two beforehand, but that was the early stages. And to see how far you've come in 5 months alone during a pandemic is exceptional. So it's great to have you back. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for talking to me again.
I appreciate it, Jake. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's great to see, promotions that are newly starting, that are starting in a really a difficult time for the world. But the thing that, and I think I told you this last time, the thing that sets you apart, GSW apart, is there's a feel to it that it is really pure wrestling combined with just really good production value. And from a fan's point of view, I mean, we watch wrestling on the internet and we try and watch everything. I try and capture just a little bit of everything, but it's very difficult to become emotionally invested in things. GSW is one of those few promotions where I'm actually kind of pretty emotionally invested in. I actually want to follow it because it's good quality. And that goes back to your background in filmmaking, which we spoke about last time. But how has it been? How would you explain, how would you describe the past 5 months for you?
I would say one of the best learning experiences of my life. For me, it was, I thought I had a better handle on it than I ended up having. And just, you really don't know what you're getting yourself into until you actually do it. So after we had the first big event, Inception, there was I was, with my background in film, I would argue I was probably a little too arrogant and, oh yeah, this production thing, yeah, we got it. We're going to be the best, no problem. I know everything about production, no problem. But, it's different from the other things in production I've done. So navigating like a 4 to 6 camera live stream and commentary versus the sound system over here, it came out great. I wouldn't say anything otherwise, but just adapting and like, okay, well, maybe some of the cameras were a little too close, or maybe we need to mix the sound a little better, or we could add little things in here. All of that is just something that we needed to have one show at least to be able to know what we need to do for future shows. And like video packages was something I wish we had in the beginning, but we didn't have any storylines yet. So we had our first show, then we had a couple video packages. Now for Global Festival, we're going to have a lot because there's a lot of storylines going into it. And it's just that long term, for us, we're trying to tell long term stories. It's not just, 1 week you're going to see this and then next week you're going to see that. There is kind of a plan loosely of what we're trying to follow and accomplish long term.
Yeah, you've definitely seen that kind of develop over time. Like you said, from the beginning, when there may not have been kind of anything, you set the tone and you established champions and storylines. And I think that's really important. And I think you've done it really early on. I think a lot of sort of independent promotions take some time to kind of grasp onto that. I think that comes from your experience in filmmaking to kind of have an idea ahead of time. With the fans kind of being at the events and the live show and some of the feedback that you've heard, how has that been? Because even though we're talking right now like it's normal, there is still a pandemic. I mean, it was only really a year ago, and we're still kind of feeling the effects from it. Numbers are up and down on a regular basis. That's still, an achievement that you've made because we're living through some really kind of interesting times. What's some of the feedback you've heard from friends, family, fans across the board?
Sure. So the fan response has been overwhelmingly positive, and that was one thing we took really seriously, mostly with Inception, because that was when we still had restrictions that were a lot tighter back then. And we always asked the fans, like, what did you think? Do you have any feedback? Did you feel safe at the show? And it was overwhelmingly positive. We had our sanitizing stations. We had all the seats socially distant. We had everything, temperature check when you come in. So we followed the regulations, made sure we did our part to try and keep everyone safe. And then there's that random spot when we just dove out into the fans and said, what the hell? But, still had to make it a wrestling show. But no, it has been overwhelmingly positive. Friends and family, they came to support the show. They helped out behind the scenes. They just sat down and enjoyed it. So it was great on that aspect. And just in general, I think it was after Catalyst, just the overwhelming reaction we got on Twitter and Instagram, like comments of, this was one of the best experiences of my life. This has changed I could pull it up real quick. Hold on one second. I just sent screenshots because I want this on our website. So I got them right here. I had a ton of fun watching the show last night. My eyes were glued to the TV for 3+ hours, just getting lost in what I was seeing. There's something special about GSW that words couldn't even describe. You'd have to feel it as you're watching. Thank you, GSW Pro, for giving me the memory of a lifetime last night. Not only were the matches incredible, meeting my heroes and some for the first time, but I was able to witness it all live happen in front row, something I'll never forget. Like those responses, how could you not just be humbled and honored at stuff like that?
Yeah, without a doubt, that's a wonderful message. Firstly, very, very motivational because it tells you that what you're doing is right. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
This is actually a personal question into your mind, into the mind of Brandon. What is it that, in your personal opinion, that makes GSW special?
That's a good question. I would say passion, and that we really, having, not really wrestled that much, but my first dream was to be a pro wrestler, and I did it and sacrificed, my health, my well-being, whatever. I tried everything I could to do it, had been injured, healed, came back, shifted away from that. I appreciate the hell out of what all of our people do because I've been through it enough to understand, and so has everybody else that's behind the scenes with me. And that level of care and dedication to wrestling is really, I'm putting my heart and soul into this. I don't look at it as a career, really. I look at it as a passion project because I don't care how successful it gets. I feel like I owe, put it this way, when I was younger, from the age of 13 to about 18, I truly credit wrestling for all the happiness in my life. And for that, I feel like I owe it, from what I've seen in wrestling not being so great lately and how they've kind of made a mockery of it in some aspects. I feel like I owe it to what gave me so much happiness to try and do right by them and give a great product in return.
Yeah, and the thing that's a wonderful answer, by the way. And the reason why I was asking you is because there's something about the feel. It's the way that you carry yourself. It's the way that the wrestlers carry themselves. It's the energy that each and every champion puts out. They really come across as champions. Like obviously the decision making, there's a lot that goes into it, but every champion actually is a believable champion in their, so it's really, there's something about the overall feel for me that when I watch it, I'm like, wow, it doesn't feel like it's only been around for 5 months or, less than a year. It feels like it's been around a long time because there's something about it. It's just, I can't even describe it. It's just a very professional vibe. It's very, and I guess it goes back to your vision of wanting to kind of put forward the pure wrestling. And you speak about some of your early kind of influences kind of in Japan and things like that. And it really shines through. It's really visible. But your explanation is perfect. And the same way that you may have been 17, 18 years old and got some kind of joy and happiness out of it, believe it or not, there's absolutely going to be other 17 and 18-year-olds that are going to see GSW today. And that sometimes is hard to get your head around because, you know, it's on the internet, it's online, and they are going to see it and they are going to enjoy it. And you are going to have some kind of positive impact or influence on, you know, on a young person's life. So, oh, tremendous stuff, you know. That's, you know, and going back to the feel, the professionalism of it, that production value is just, that's one of the things I admire about it. In terms of, I suppose, in terms of considerations from a business standpoint, you know, because you're pretty hands-on, I would imagine. But what are some of the things that you consider when making particular decisions? Like, how do you decide commentary? How do you decide, you know, like you were saying earlier, with the camera angles and the shots and which ones to use, and where do we put the hard cam, or where do we get, you know, this cameraman involved? What are some of the day-to-day things that you would think about when running a show, and how did it change from Inception to Catalyst?
So I sort of have my hand in every aspect of, like, from the creation of the music for theme songs for people who don't have one or that don't have the rights to it, to I'll take personal phone calls with a lot of our local and even bigger name wrestlers and just say, hey, give me a half hour of your time. Let's just spitball how we can make you a star, because I want everyone in the company to be successful. And I haven't spoken to everyone yet. It's a long process, but I've spoken to almost half of our roster and had very, you know, fruitful and good conversations about getting to know them and their character, how I can incorporate that into GSW, and shooting ideas back and forth. Like, all right, I got an idea. How about we try this? How about, you know, you add this to your entrance, or we change up the music, or we change the wardrobe, or maybe you try this move, or, you know, because it's all encompassing in a story. And then when it comes to the camera work stuff, there's not too much that you can do because it happens so quickly. It's not like a movie where it's like, all right, hey, we missed it, let's go for another take. It's okay, well, we're going to cover that with a wide, and then we're going to have a couple ringside people here. And worst case is if somebody misses it, I have it on the wide shot. You go for close-ups, you go for mediums, we got the hard cam over there. The difference from Inception is that we kind of got the some of the kinks worked out with the live stream. So we were able to have more cameras ready and available that actually made it into the live stream, as opposed to the last one. We had to take a ringside and make it hardwired so we couldn't have it running around too much. Just little things like that, technical stuff that we had to work the kinks out. We have a pretty good system now, more reliable computer, the internet connection. I spent like $2,000 on this portable like Wi-Fi booster thing because the place we were at had not the best Wi-Fi. Now I'm specifically searching for venues that have blazing fast internet, so that way we won't have those issues. So it's, you know, it's a learning experience on certain things. I'm like, 10 megabits upload is not bad. And then you find out, well, I only needed 5, but the 10 is not constant. It's just, you know, it is what it is. So just little things like that. And I think the way that I structure it to everyone when I talk to them is, no matter what, wrestling is the story of good versus evil. David versus Goliath, that's what it is. As much as you want to change it, it will never change. So when you're able to accept that and think about a story is an arc like this, right? And it builds to that peak, the climax, or the conflict, the climax, and then the falling action into your resolution. The thing that a lot of people don't take into consideration is every step is a mini arc that builds in that. So from when your music hits, to when you go on stage, to when you enter the ring, to when you cut your promo, to when you have your first hold in the wrestling match, when somebody gets pinned and somebody goes in the back, each of those have to work in unison to build that crescendo. And that's when you get a really successful product, in my opinion. So my job as a storyteller and a filmmaker is to kind of help guide everyone and realize what that is, and then using whatever tools I have behind the scenes, whether it's a video package, directing a promo, or getting songs made, or whatever, that's how we try to add to it. And that's been probably the biggest difference from Inception to Catalyst so far, was the difference in presentation. I wanted a lot more, me personally, I wanted to be a lot more involved with the overall process, making sure that we really nailed the look that we needed to add to that story.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've definitely those small kind of nicks and knacks. You've definitely kind of you would figure out over time naturally, wouldn't you? With your, I mean, you've kind of just kind of mentioned there that you want to be a lot more involved when the show is actually running and it's taken place. Where exactly are you, and how does that work from start to finish? Are you kind of running around making sure things are going okay? Are you in contact with anyone? Do you delegate particular tasks to people, or are you just kind of watching what's happening in the ring? How does it work from your end?
So it really depends. Like for Catalyst, a lot of people who I thought were going to be there to help build everything called out last minute, didn't show up, whatever. So I was there building the stage, putting the pipe and drape up, like just running around like a chicken without a head on, trying to put everything together because we're going live at 7 o'clock. All right, we need to be ready by 6:30 when doors open or whatever. So I was running around all over the place, and then during the show, I'm on a group call with the two other people I have behind the scenes with me. And generally, when we're doing a live show, I try to stay by the production video village because I need to direct when to cue music, when to cue whatever, camera, cut here, graphic here, blah, blah, blah. I try because the production aspect is really like my baby in the project. But we're on a call and I'll just say, hey, we need to send, so-and-so up to Gorilla, get them ready to come out because their match is going to be starting like now. So just in general, it'll be directing the entire show. So I'm on a group call, whether it's on the phone or we have headsets. It just depends on the venue. If they're downstairs and I'm upstairs, we can't use a headset. The wireless is not that good, so we're on our phones. But in a perfect world, I'm generally staying over by Video Village, making sure that everything's going well with the production.
Amazing. And when the show is essentially complete, you've had a successful show, you go back home, and then essentially, not long after, you'd kind of go into post-production. How does that look? How is it, in terms of editing and things like that? Because obviously you've just been on a live stream, and now now there are some things that you want to edit, put online in terms of content for YouTube and things like that. So how does that differ? Is there much change there, or is there kind of a lot of hours are put in, or is there a different approach?
It just depends. At that point, I usually try to hand it off. We have a couple of really good editors. Brian Tamburello, who's also our ring announcer for the big pay-per-views. Phenomenal editor, one of the best I've ever seen, and he puts together a lot of little packages and highlights from the show, and I'll have him start working on promotional content from the show. If I need to recut it, either I'll do it or I'll pass it off to my editor who works for my film production company. Just say, hey, something happened here, could you recut this scene or something? And then she'll be doing that. At the same time, depending on how the sound person was for the live stream or whatever, I may have some stuff remixed in post, so I'll send it off to a sound designer, have him mix and master it properly. So it just depends on how it went. Like Catalyst was a little tough. The sound person we had really was not that good. My usual sound guy was booked, so we worked with somebody new, and the levels were off. So we just had to fix the levels a little bit, dub in the music so it sounded because it sounded great live. You could hear everything blazingly loud through the speakers, but in the video it was a little low. So just little things like that. Not a big deal. Turnarounds usually a couple weeks, ready to go, and then we have all of our little highlight packages and stuff.
That's really cool. I mean, one of the things that I really appreciate that I've seen more and more of it is your content on YouTube as well. I think that the audience is growing there too. I think you've got about 700 subscribers, which is, it's something that is growing more and more every day. Yeah. And you're putting out really good quality content, whether it's, highlight videos, whether it's like sizzler music videos, whether it's, even like intro, like Titantron type videos at the moment, and then full matches. So there's, across the board, there's all different types of things depending on people's time, because a lot of people on the internet they've got different concentration spans. So you might find someone that has half an hour, they can sit down and watch a match, but you might find someone that only really has 5 minutes. Well, they can watch a music video. So there's something for everybody, which is pretty good. In terms of what you've done so far with the content, and then the physical the stage and the entrance, is it safe to say that we're just at the beginning in terms of growth? Is there a lot more that's, do you have more plans to grow the stage bigger, whether it's the ring or the surroundings or even the online content? What are your thoughts behind that?
Yeah, so the plan going forward is obviously, as GSW grows, the whole production and aspect is going to grow. So it really, as we're continuing to grow, which thankfully we have been, we have different ideas for what we're going to do. So for instance, global festivals taking place at the House of Independence in Asbury Park. This is a ridiculously expensive venue that we're going to, but it's built for like pro concerts and stuff. Like they've got a several $100,000 lighting rig already built in there with strobes and moving headlights and all this stuff. So like the entrances are going to be killer. It's got a huge projector for the wall for the Titantron entrances. Like it really is spectacular. There's no room on the stage for a truss, which is fine because everything else is going to look awesome. So that already is going to be a step up. This show in particular is kind of like our pitch to networks. So we're going as much as we can budget wise while we're at this stage of our growth. We're putting it all into this series of shows, so we can make the best possible product and say, here, put us on TV, please and thank you. If not, check us out anyway. So we're doing that, and then we adjust accordingly. So it depends, if some big deal comes out of it, great. Then we try a stadium or whatever, just make things look nicer. Otherwise, we stay in that range of where we were at there versus the Catalyst building, which looked fantastic on the stage. So it depends. It's venue to venue, but the idea is to continue to make it look bigger and better and nicer, because that's what GSW is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously you mentioned the August event coming up, and that's something, I do want to touch on eventually. And that is a big one, because it's essentially, I'll leave it to you to describe, but from the looks of it, it's a 2-day event, multiple events. What led to that decision? When you were sat down at the drawing board, I imagine you would have made the decision just after Catalyst, or possibly before. How did you sit down and say, you know what, we want to do it at Asbury Park?
Well, I live right next to Asbury Park. So very much historically in wrestling, Asbury Park is huge. The old ECW kind of grew in that area. Many other and famous wrestling schools all came from there. So Asbury Park is deeply rooted in the pro wrestling community, especially on the East Coast. So I've personally been to a bunch of shows at Convention Hall. Convention Hall is my favorite building in the world. I'd love to run there, but we're not selling 4,000 tickets. As much as I would love to, that's something to grow into, years from now, whatever. But the idea of running in Asbury in the summer, you have the most amount of foot traffic possible. We're in a beach town that's very popular, known, at least in the United States, if not the world over. So the idea of, well, let's take our biggest event and put it into an area where they're in their biggest season and the most amount of people, and let's see if magic happens when things come together. But in general, we are doing 4 shows over 2 days. 2 of them are high voltage TV tapings, which will give us 7 months worth of content ish. And then the 2 pay-per-views. We had planned Global Festival before Catalyst because we were planning the women's tournament, and we thought, well, since we were really only doing shows like once every 3 months, I don't want to drag out a tournament to be almost like a year long. So it was just, well, let's try to do the last 2 rounds back to back. Financially, horrible decision. Going to a really expensive venue and hiring people 2 days in a row. It's like, well, here's my bank account. But from a perspective of the event itself and keeping the spectacle and all encompassing, it was the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier with the passion behind what you do. You can see the connection there of your local kind of venue that has some historical value, but at the same time, your passion for wrestling, your passion for wanting to kind of give back to the business and kind of put that together and create something. So I think, it might not be it might not be affordable. It might be an expensive choice, but it's a great choice nonetheless, I think. So, there's good reason behind it. One of the things I've really enjoyed in the finer details are the champions that have been crowned. And not just the champions, but like any wrestling fan, and I'm sure you can relate to this when you were a fan, it was always great seeing the belts and the design that, the titles and what they mean to the promotion and what they mean to the wrestlers themselves. And you've got an incredible lineup of champions there. You've got the world champion being Hammerstone. You've got I believe it's the Dream title on Wrecking Ball, which was probably my favorite belt design of all time.
I love that belt.
Incredibly detailed. And then obviously the Soul title with I believe it's Masha, and then the next gen is Gio. So how did your vision play into that when you were putting the pieces together? When you said, right, I'm going to, have, the next gen title and it's going to mean this, and this is the relevance it's going to have. Then I'm going to have, the Dream and when you were putting it all together and mapping it out in your head, what was your vision? What does it mean to you?
So, and I'll compare this to other independent companies in general, no specific names, but a lot of times I notice that they'll hold off in making their big champion or hold off making a champion at all. And I feel like every company in the beginning needs to let people know who represents us, because ultimately, no matter what, and I know bigger companies have tried to shy away from like having one person that's really like the head of the company, and I don't want to say that it's wrong. I just don't think that it's the most effective way to go about it, because no matter what, every company has a face. Every company has, the one that you kind of put the weight of the company on their shoulders, and that's totally fine. So for me, I really needed a world champion first, our big championship. We did have the next gen belts for high voltage that were crowned before that, but I mean, for our opening pay-per-view event, we needed a world champion. And of course, who better than either Hammerstone or Aries? Ended up being Hammerstone. So that worked out really well and has continued to. For high voltage, the idea was that we have this brand where most of the people on there are more local talent, lesser known to the world. But hey, when you win a championship on here, you're qualified, air quotes, they're all qualified, but you are, in story terms, qualified to be on the pay-per-view. Okay, so then you have this belt, you've earned this belt, you get a chance to show the world what you could do live on pay-per-view. And they did, very much so. And they have done such a great job on there, and that's supposed to be the stepping stone to, okay, you're going to be working against bigger name people, and Gio's a good example. He's going to be going up against Aries soon. We've got a lot of big plans for Masha. So just in general, that's really how we saw those belts. The Dream belt is our, what would you call it, the mid-card belt, so to speak. But the idea is the Dream belt is, okay, this is the workhorse belt. This is, all right, well, who is really the hardest worker, the one who really is just busting their ass, who proves night in and night out that, wow, they're just total package. And that's what the Dream belt is. Here's your chance to realize your dream. And more specifically, it's defying reality, excel above myself. All right, because that's what a sport competition is, especially when you're by yourself, is you're really competing against yourself. Do better every time you go out there. And that's also kind of the motto of GSW, is nobody looks bad. The point is everybody goes out there, and you got to try your hardest to beat the person, and you got to try your hardest to show what you could do. And if you're successful in that, then you're going to have a lot of success here.
Yeah, and there's that phrase that's, it's not the belt that makes the champion, it's the champion that makes the belt. And I think all of the champions right now currently, they're very believable, so whether it's however it's perceived or whatever position it is on the card, it's still a championship. And I think they still, they represent that. I think all of them do. So it's a great choice. I think once again, I love the fans insider kind of stuff. How did you come up with the designs? What were some of your inspirations? What were some of the ideas and visions that you had in your head? Did you consult with anyone, or did you kind of have a picture in your mind of what you wanted them to look like?
So the World Championship, the Next Gen, and the Soul of Syndicate, I designed myself. The World Championship to me was just classic wrestling belt. So relatively simple design. It was the first one that we had made and ordered, so I didn't want to try anything too fancy and get over my head and it would come out ugly. So I just, classic. This is like what a World Championship belt should look like. That's what it was. The Next Gen and the Soul of Syndicate, I really wanted those to have more of like a futuristic, modern flair to them, because it really is supposed to be for the next generation of the business in the men's and women's division. So I think for that one, I was inspired by one of the Impact belts, the Grand Championship or something, and I used that kind of as a template, and then went from there, added, like a modern minimalist type of aesthetic to it. The Dream belt, that was when I was like, all right, I've made a couple of these belts now. I got some ideas for this one. So I'm like, let me see if I could fuse the IWGP, not the new one, the Triple Crown, and the Noah GHC belt. And if those three just had a love child, what would that belt look like? And that's the Dream belt. So I would assume everybody's probably jealous of the Dream belt, because that is just, oh my God, it's beautiful.
It really is. I think they're all great, but that one is really good. And yeah, it's great to hear it from you, kind of, because you really kind of, you verbalize the influence and the inspiration. So it really helps paint the picture for fans and people that are interested. Going back to the motto, "We are wrestling." Mm-hmm. How did you come up with that? Because that ties in with your decision making for the belts. Like you just said, you wanted to combine elements of whether it's IWGP, Noah. There is this pattern here of what you want to present to the fans, and we've seen it in the matches as well. I was watching, Dickinson versus Hammerstone, and the style, the commentary, it's there. Like we know what we're seeing. But we are wrestling. What made you kind of give that kind of green light on that and say, hey, this is our catchphrase?
I think that was probably the easiest decision we've ever made. And it's weird to say that in 2021, a tagline of "We are wrestling" is actually different. That's the problem, is you have a million wrestling companies out there, and it's like wrestling is a dirty word. I don't want to steal that from Heyman's promo on Vince from like 2001, but it really is like nobody wants to be called professional wrestling. They want to be sports entertainment. They want to be superstars. They want to be, glamour queens or whatever. And I'm like, no, you're wrestlers. You are fighters. The idea of professional wrestling is go out there and make me believe that two people are in a fight and you both want to win. If you're not intense, if you're not like, I'm going to kill this guy or girl, then it's not believable. And the whole point of wrestling is the same as a movie. You're supposed to go out there and suspend your disbelief. If I watch anything in a film and it looks cheesy and shitty, well, I'm gone. I don't want to see it. Same thing with wrestling. And I said, there's no reason for wrestling to be a dirty word. It is what it is. We are wrestling. We're a pro wrestling company. It's the simplest way of describing our company possible. but it's the one that stays the most true to us at the same time, and oddly enough, different from everybody else at the same time.
Yeah, it is funny how it's, that using that word is almost quite original in today's, is considered to be unique, which is funny, but it's very much there, and I think there's an audience for it, and the success of the show's proven it. The fact that there are wrestlers that are embracing it is also proven it. Is there, I mean, without obviously giving too much away, is there any plans or any kind of bridge of connection between you and being in the States and then maybe somebody in Japan, or and in general, Japanese wrestling? Has there been any considerations there? Has there been any talks? Have you had any thoughts in your mind where you've thought, you know what, I'd like to bring that Japanese wrestler over and have it, throw him in the mix? What have been some of your thoughts about that?
100%. I mean, we've had conversations with basically every major company in Japan, to the point where, yes, we have access to almost anyone we want, and the plan is to bring them over. The problem is they are currently still, I wouldn't say 100% in lockdown, but they are, only flights can come out of Tokyo. You return, you mandatory quarantine for 2 weeks, and there's all sorts of other hurdles. Like if you live in Hiroshima or Fukuoka or Osaka or whatever, you can't fly into Tokyo and get a connecting flight to your house. You have to fly into Tokyo, quarantine there for 2 weeks in a hotel, then you can go back and travel over to your home. So right now it's just way too difficult to be able to bring people over. So the plan is there, and we've thought about it. We've even spoken about doing joint shows in Japan. We spoke with Junichiro Tenryu. He just started his promotion back up that he had closed for a couple of years, and he's interested in doing joint shows with us. We've spoken with All Japan in the past. We spoke with New Japan on doing talent exchanges. So the door's open for a lot of great stuff to come over and to happen with us. The most recent thing, or the nearest thing that's coming in our future, is February 19th. We are doing a show at the Knights of Columbus in Jersey, where we're co-producing a show with Lucha Memes to bring a Lucha Libre versus GSW product to the US. So we are branching out, but we're staying a little closer to home, where we know we could work something out. Like, all right, they're not locked down, we're not locked down. Let's bring a couple of the luchadors up here and we'll put on some crazy show. Our best technicians, our best grapplers and wrestlers against some of the best luchadors, and just see a showcase of the best pure wrestling in the world.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. That's actually really exciting. And it's something to look forward to, a nice mix of getting, Mexican talent up to GSW, seeing some of the GSW people go head to head with them. I think that's something to look forward to. What was the inspiration behind that? I know you kind of mentioned they're not locked down, you're not locked down, so there's the opportunity. What made you think, you know what, this is actually something feasible? They've got talent, we've got talent, and I can piece these pieces together to create a card. What were some of the thoughts behind that?
So Lucha Memes actually posted on Twitter that they were looking to come to the United States, and they want to be on the East Coast. So as soon as I saw that, I might have been the first person to message them, say, hey, you guys have awesome wrestlers. I know that. I've seen your stuff. You guys are fantastic. Here's a little bit about us. They knew who we were already, and we're just like, we could put on some magic, because our values in wrestling align. The styles may be a little different, but the values align, in that we want the best quality wrestling product for our fans. We want to see the best in-ring action that the world will ever see. So with both of us having that as our core goal, it just made it easy for us. All right, well, who do you want to bring up from Mexico? Sounds good. Who do you want to bring from GSW? Perfect. Sounds good. Let's see. And we're going to have a cool match. And let's see. I think I could show you the poster. We just posted it the other day, but that's I don't know if you could see that.
Nice. Yep. Lucha and pure wrestling. Awesome.
Yep. So that's what we're doing February 19th.
Nice. February 19th. I mean, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the 1 year?
It's one day
Is it?
before.
Okay.
February 20th was our 1 year, but that would be like a Sunday or whatever. So we're doing the Saturday.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's amazing to see that from your very first sort of pay-per-view to see where it's kind of going towards, it's definitely on the right track. If there were no travel restrictions, I mean, it's safe to say that there would be so much more happening because the bridge is there. You very much confirmed it. The bridge, the connection, the possibility is there. So that's something that for the fans that are listening right now, is something to look forward to. To think February 2022, we've got that coming up. Imagine what's following that. So that's really cool to hear. Really great. Thank you for sharing that. For those that don't know, it's February 19, and it's something to look forward to. Obviously, there's a very big one coming up ahead of us that I'm sort of gearing towards, that is going to happen August. And let's talk about that. But just before we move on to that, I wanted to ask you about Fight TV, how
Sure.
that's gone for you so far, some of the things that you've observed, whether it's the pros, the cons, the successes, things that have gone well in terms of viewership. How has that experience been for you? Obviously, as a business owner, as a promoter of professional wrestling, obviously it's a whole new experience. How has it been? How have you found the last 5 months?
I like Fight TV a lot. I think they're a fantastic platform. I do think there are some drawbacks to being involved with Fight TV. I am kind of a no sugarcoat person, so very much I am completely fine being upfront and honest about it. The pros obviously are that you have a professional platform that you can stream on, and you have access to their over 2 million or whatever members that are involved with Fight TV. They are global, meaning if you're in Japan, if you're in Dubai, if you're in England, wherever you are, you just go on Fight TV's website, type it in, and boom, it's already adjusted for whatever's going on in your country, and it's super easy. So that for access outside of the country specifically, I think it's second to none. I think their platform is very well run. I've had a lot of talks with them. And they promote you as well, and they have a decent following, which is great because we don't have the following that they have. So any promotion outside of our own platform is fantastic. The drawback I find is that you have no access to who has purchased your show. So you don't get the information, even an email address or a first name or anything of who's buying the show. So for us to be able to expand on that audience and turn them into like GSW fans, it's not possible. Where if I have you say sign, like let's say you purchase a ticket through Eventbrite, which is our ticketing platform to come in person, I have your name, I have your email, whatever information that they get. So then if I want to send an email blast like, hey, check out our next show, or hey, we're running a sale on t-shirts or something, so that crossover is not there. That's the biggest drawback that they have. Other than that, the program is perfect. A lot of big sports are on Fight TV, which is fantastic. So we are lucky in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine in terms of measuring in terms of measuring particular analytics, it might be difficult if you don't have that information, and just being able to follow up and bring those turn those viewers into fans. So I completely understand, and that makes sense. It's great to hear that at least the platform is there, and it's available for people to buy in wherever you can access Fight TV, which is pretty much if you have the internet. So that's great too. And now moving on to Global Festival. Is that going to be on Fight TV?
No, it's going to be available for free on YouTube.
I saw that. I saw the stream being mentioned, which is why I was thinking, I was like, And what is the inspiration behind that? What led to that decision being made?
So, like I said, this series of events is really we're putting our best foot forward to try and get a deal with networks, to work out with sponsors, to really grow our audience. So we're saying we're taking the biggest series of shows that we've ever done, and we're going to make them free. And the idea is, I was speaking with a buddy of mine in the film industry who's been helping me kind of get in talks with a lot of the networks, of which we've spoken to pretty much all the big ones. And they potentially will be watching the show, which is great for us. And our biggest barrier to entry for growing our brand is cost. You know, anytime there's a cost associated with something, 90% of people who would have watched it if it was free won't, which is totally fine, you know. So the idea is, if we made X amount of dollars on Fight TV and we had X amount of people watching, how many more people would be watching if it was free? Would it be, you know, instead of say 500 or 1,000 people on Fight TV, would it be 10 or 100,000 if it was on YouTube? And if that's the case, would having say 100,000 views or something on the pay-per-view turn into more money long term from sponsors because you now have a product that can get this many views, or to a network and say, hey, if we're going to put this show out for free on, you know, USA Network or Fox or FX or whatever, I have an audience of 100,000 people. Does that then look better to them? So the idea really is that it's a long-term strategy and approach, is let's try to build as much of an audience as we can around this one product and use this as our real showpiece to put out into the world, not only to grow our audience to help us with future Fight TV events, t-shirts and merch and all that stuff, but also to help us in terms of long-term sponsors, bigger sponsors, and also for presentation to the networks.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great choice. I think, like you said, how many more people will be willing to watch it now? Look, I know a lot of people that are willing to buy it on Fight TV and have, but
Yeah.
YouTube is a whole nother animal, because all it requires is to just pop it online. You just literally just you just open your laptop or turn on your computer and you just go on YouTube, or even on your phone. You know, if you can stream it on your phone, imagine that. So yeah. I think what you said is absolutely true. I think the potential for the scope is so much wider. Were there any considerations about using possibly Twitch, or was YouTube like the best option?
We did think about Twitch, we thought about Vimeo, we thought about YouTube, all of the major like free and accessible networks, and I was not opposed to Twitch. That was kind of the number 2 option. To be completely honest with you, I don't remember why we decided against Twitch. I know for sure I only wanted to do one, because I want to funnel all of our viewership into one place. If it's spread out, then you got some here, you got some there. It's harder to really say like, hey, check out our analytics, because you're split half and half. So the idea was, I just wanted to pick one platform, the biggest and best audience, and just we're focused on getting eyes on the product. And I felt YouTube probably has more users. I don't know anything about Twitch in terms of, you know, viewership or how many people are on there. Ease of access. I'm very familiar with YouTube. I've had YouTube channels. I film for mega famous YouTube channels. So it just, in my mind, from what I know, YouTube felt like the best platform.
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer in the sense that, you know, like I mentioned, you've got around, you know, 700 subscribers already. They're very likely to tune in, but then there's so many more people that are just going to tune in because it's there and because it's free. And let's be honest, I mean, it's nobody, especially a young wrestling fan, they won't say no to something that's free. And then all it takes is, you know, one viewer to realize, hey, this is actually really good quality, and then they talk about it on a forum, or they speak about it on social media, and then it grows, and before you know it, that snowball effect of something essentially going viral, it becomes GSW, you know, and it becomes the show. So I think it's a very smart way of thinking about it, you know. It's very, and it's exciting. How's that gonna look like with the 2-day event? Because you mentioned obviously you've got some high voltage tape-ins, and then you've got the sort of essentially the pay-per-view. Is it all going to be streamed, or is it just the pay-per-views? How's that going to work for viewers? Is there a particular time? Is that all kind of set in stone now?
Yeah, so the voltage stuff is not going to be streamed. The only people who will get to see it are the ones who are there live, and then it's going to be released for season 2 of High Voltage, which is going to start early fall. Basically, season 2 of Voltage is going to go from September something until like WrestleMania-ish. So that is not exactly canon to what happens at Global Festival because some stuff is happening at different times. So you'll see. The 2 pay-per-views live stream 8 p.m. both nights, and those will be live. I guess they're free per-views now, but so those will be live on YouTube at 8 p.m. The link is there somewhere where you could set a reminder for when the stream goes live. I'll send that over to you so you have it. But yeah, so it will be on the page 8 p.m. Friday night and 8 p.m. Saturday night, the 20th and 21st.
Perfect. I think, and I'm sure people will be able to find the details on the website, which is gswpro.com.
Hopefully by the time this airs, the website will be completely done. We're actually in the middle of rehabbing it right now and making it perfect and pretty. So it's currently probably not if you went on the website, but within 2 days it'll be done.
Nice. Oh, that's really exciting. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think, obviously, once again, it's something that I really want to put the emphasis that you have it in your name, global. So I think it's really important that, the people that listen to this, are mostly in the UK, also some in Dubai. This is something that is we are hungry for wrestling, and the fact that your tagline is "We are wrestling," it kind of solves the problem there. So if you were to describe, or if you were to in a short sentence just explain the upcoming show to somebody who hasn't heard of GSW before and they've just discovered it, what would you say to them?
I would say that the Global Festival is our best foot forward in a showcase of what we feel is the best wrestling in the world.
Awesome. Oh, that's a great way. I mean, it's great. It's great to see what is being created there. It's something to look forward to for sure. Thank you for your time, Brandon.
Yeah, thank
Sorry?
you. No, I was going to say, what match are you looking most forward to?
I'm a big without obviously sounding like too much of a big fan. I love Hammerstone. I'm very traditional in that sense where I really like champions who look like champions, and don't get me wrong, people in the past, obviously everyone that's been in that picture, whether it's Austin Aries or Chris Dickinson, they all look like champions, and they give off that vibe. They have that very much that energy. But I'm a big Hammerstone fan, so it's it just makes sense for me. But if you had to pick 3 of your favorite things that have happened in GSW over the past 5 months, whether it's favorite or funny, what would it be?
That's tough. I would say Gio's match against Hammerstone on High Voltage, getting the chance to see how he would do as the next generation going against the present. I thought that was fantastic, and I thought he did a great job, and there's a lot of good stuff to come for him. Wrecking Ball winning the Dream Belt. It was just a great moment. The post-match, just seeing him successful was great. And also probably the tag match at Catalyst with Aries and Ricky versus Gio and Supa. That was, of all the matches we've had in GSW, which I love almost all of them, Deanna and Trish, Hammerstone and Aries, Jordan Blade and Deanna was fantastic. Kimberly and Trish was amazing. We've had so many good matches already. But I thought from a pure in-ring and just total package match, I thought that tag match was probably the best match in ring that we've ever had.
Some really good suggestions there, and hopefully some new incredible things are going to happen in just, I believe, 3 weeks from now.
Yep.
Thank you so much for your time, Brandon. I won't keep you much longer. It's always great having you on. It's great to see the progress of GSW and how it's changed in a short time. And you know what? We have some incredible things to look forward to in the future. Things like next February and things like when travel restrictions reopen and we go back to normal. Just imagine what is gonna happen. It's very exciting times. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. Thanks for having me.